Last lesson, which was introduction to approximation and errors, I introduced you to different forms of finding the absolute errors of different values. So there were like, I think, 3 major ways we are supposed to know how to find absolute errors. So today we are moving to the second part, which is limits of accuracy. And I told you that in this topic, kila kitu inahusu ingine. So what we did last, we need it right now. What we'll do right now, we may need it in the next lesson and so on. So when you talk about limits of accuracy, then you're told that for anything which is approximated to the nearest of something has got the limits. It has a maximum value and also a minimum value. Remember about the absolute errors. We talked of 3 different types, and I said that an absolute error is supposed to be half of that thing that something is rounded off to the nearest to. Kitu kama hiyo tu, a half of that. So once you have half of what something is rounded to the nearest to, that's absolute error. So that should lead us to limits of accuracy. Let me not waste much time. Nitakuwa so straight to the points. Consider a point like A, such that A is measured as 15.4 centimeters. So then inamaanisha hii number iko measured to the nearest 10th of a centimeter. So the absolute error itakuwa a half of 10th, but that is just the same as 0.05. Remember I said if numbers are in decimal place, unless otherwise, to get absolute error, it is just you replace the numbers with the zeros, then at the end a 5. But it's just a 10th of a centimeter, ni kama 0.1. But when you say 0.1 divided by 2, you get that 0.05. So in this, the absolute error of this is 0.05. We write it as a plus or minus. Plus or minus, now limits come in. Plus or minus inamaanisha, the answer for this could be 0.05 less or 0.05 more than this value that is here, which is 15.4. So from this, to get the limits of accuracy, simply means have the maximum of this. If you want to get the maximum of the value A, it will 15.4 plus 0.05, which is 15.45. And the minimum value of A is given as 15.4 minus 0.05, which is the same as 15.35. So when you're writing limits of accuracy, you have to write your values in terms of inequalities. So it means I'm supposed to write the value A, then on the right, I write the maximum value, which is the same as 15.45. Alafu on the left, I'll write the minimum, which is 15.35. So when you say limits of accuracy, limits are supposed to give you both maximum and minimum values, but written in terms of inequality form. So when a value is written this way, it's in limits. So ukifanya question, alafu sika umesema, find the limits of accuracy. It means you leave your answer in terms of inequalities, showing clearly the maximum and the minimum values. Another example, consider a value like B, which is measured as 70 kilograms, but you're told to the nearest 10 kilograms. So to the nearest 10 kilograms, it means the absolute error is 5, which is plus or minus 5. The meaning of plus or minus, like I said in the other case, it can be more than 5 of that or less than 5 of that. So the maximum value you can ever get from this, it's this plus 5, which is the same as 75. That's what this absolute means. And the minimum means you say this minus 5, which is the same as 65. So when you're writing limits of accuracy for this, it will be this way. You write here the smallest value, which is 65, and here the maximum value, which is 75. Notice that for this inequality here, I didn't place an equals to, because it cannot be actually equals to. Think of this, mtu akwambie round of 75 to the nearest 10, then your answer should be 80. So when you say equals to 75, inamaanisha that statement is wrong. It's something that not many people can really notice, but ukirevise vizuri uangalie your books, you'll notice that. So when you're rounding to the nearest, in such a case, then it's supposed to be this upper value should not have that equals to, because equals to means 75 is included in the numbers B, but B cannot be 75 actually. It is just something which is less than 75 kidogo. So you have to note that very well. So from these two examples, I've shown you clearly how to get a maximum and also a minimum value, and at the same time using the absolute errors of what we did last week. Then from that, you can write what you're calling limits. Then from these two statements, if I wrote a statement like this one, nikiandika kitu kama a value P, which is between 6 and 2. There are things we should learn from this. Kuna several things that I have to learn from this statement here. The first thing I should learn is the smallest value of P is 2. As in, the minimum value of P equals to 2. The maximum value of P equals to 6. And again, there is actual value of P. Actual value of P is that value that is in between. It is supposed to be given by this minimum plus maximum, then divided by 2. So when you add these two, you get 8, divided by 2, you'll get 4. So it means the actual value of P is supposed to be 4. So P was 4, but its minimum is 2, its maximum is 6. So you have to learn that from this. Ni kama tu hata hizi questions zingine. It's like, ukitaka kupata the actual value of A, which is 15.4, you'll say 15.35 plus 15.45, then divide by 2. That will give you 15.4, this 15.4 we have here. If you want to get this 70, you'll say 75 plus 65, then divide by 2. It gives you the 70. So from this, we have to learn that. We can get a maximum, we can get a minimum, and we can get an actual value from this statement here. Hii ikikuwa hivi. So that's the first part on limits of accuracy. So these limits of accuracy part leads us to propagation of errors. There's something propagation of errors. So propagation of errors is supposed to be how do you do operations that involve errors. And these operations are supposed to be actually 4 operations. The first operation for this should be, leo tunaangalia, first of all, tunaanza na 1 addition. So this means we are adding values which involve errors. What is the process of doing such questions? It's a very simple thing. If you just follow, kama unaelewa unarudia, unarudia mpaka saa yenye utashika vizuri, but ni kitu very, very, very simple. So in addition, as far as errors are concerned and additions, I'll first explain by, let me first introduce this illustration, then from there we hit the main statement. So consider these two values. I have x is between 6 and 10, and I have y is between 2 and 4. Now, kulingana na the previous page that we had, you should understand hapa. You should understand, nikiandika a statement in terms of limits kama hii, understand what this statement means. It means the smallest value of x is 6, the biggest is 10. The actual will be 8, 6 plus 10 divided by 2. The smallest of y is 2, the biggest is 4. The actual value is 2 plus 4 divided by 2, which is the same as 3. But now, this is what we want to do. Using this statement here, I want to get the maximum value I can ever get if I say a value of x added to a value of y. So using this statement here, the numbers that I have here, in which way can you get the biggest value of x plus y? Kumbuka tumambua, x is any number between 6 and 10. Again, y is any number between 2 and 4. So inamaanisha, think of any number between 6 and 10, and think of any other number between 2 and 4, so that you say your x plus y of any of those numbers should give you the biggest value possible. So the maximum answer you can get from these two is supposed to be, if I took 10 and 4, then add. Nikisema 10 plus 4, actually I'll get 14. From these numbers that we have here, hakuna any other number unaweza chukua ya x na ingine ya y ati add together and get an answer which is more than 14. Hakuna. It is only that, because I took the biggest value of x and for the biggest value of y, I added. Now, if I want to get the minimum value of x plus y, inamaanisha, which numbers of x and y should I take from these values range zenye ziko hapa, so that if I add them, inipatie the smallest answer. The smallest answer can only be if I take the smaller of 6 of x plus the smaller of y, which is the same as 6 plus 2. And 6 plus 2 is the same as 8. So from this, I got that the smallest value of x plus y is 8, and the maximum or the biggest value of x plus y is the same as 14. So from this, there is a conclusion that you come up with, which should help you in operations later on. Kuna so many things we are still doing step by step. Leo tu tunaangalia maximum, minimum. Kuna mahali tutaenda vitu zingine relative, if you know the topic, you know. Kuna mahali tutaenda percentage. Everything step by step. From this, the conclusion is, in addition, in numbers which are added, for addition, if I want to get a maximum answer for addition, I either add the maximum values that are involved in the operation. Maximum values are involved in the operation. If I want to get a minimum value, I'll add the minimum values of the operation that I'm given. That is now operation. It is an operation. Unajua ukisema addition, una add kitu to something. Hizo vitu zenye una add. Ukitaka kupata maximum yao, chukua maximum ya each individual part of what you're adding, put them together. If you want to get the minimum, you'll also do the same thing. So minimum, add the minimums. Maximum, add the maximums. A basic example, we look at some few basic examples, starting with the first one. First question. Mtu akisema, if, this is my first question A, if A equals to 6.8 centimeters and B equals to 3.6 centimeters, calculate the maximum and the minimum value of A plus B. So this is an operation. So they want you to get the maximum of this operation, which you go A plus B, na tena minimum. So based on what I had explained previously hapo juu kidogo, nimesema, if you want to get a maximum value, take the maximum respective values of the operation, provided the operation is addition, which takes us back to the absolute error and all that. Ukikuwa na number 6.8. This 6.8 here, its absolute error is 0.05. From 0.05, now tunajua how to get absolute error. In case you forgot, just check lesson 1. Utaona how that comes in. So 6.8 has an absolute error of plus or minus 0.05. So it means that the maximum of 6.8 is 6.8 plus 0.05, which is the same as 6.85. Its minimum is 6.75. B, maximum of B is 3.65. Its minimum is 3.55. So if you want to get the maximum of this operation, unachukua the maximum of A, then plus the maximum of B, according to this statement here. So it will be maximum of A is 6.85 plus maximum of B is 3.65. Then the answer for this should be 10.5. Remember, it was just an operation, so the units will be involved in this case. So it is 10.5 centimeters. If I wanted to get the minimum of A plus B, from this statement here, it says minimum in an operation which is addition, add the respective minimum values. So A plus B, take the minimum of A. Minimum of A was 6.75. In case you're forgetting, refer to the previous lesson. Minimum of B is supposed to be 3.55. And if you add this together, this should give you 10.3 centimeters. So look at that. That's a question where they just ask for maximum, minimum values in an operation. And to get the values, I simply did what is involved in the statements. Kulingana venye nilikuwa nime-explain. On this illustration here, it showed clearly that I want to get a maximum value, I'll add the maximums. If I want to get the minimum value, I'll add the minimums. And I exactly did that. Example 2. Example 2 is, I'll write the question first. The question is a rectangular field. A rectangular field okay, a rectangular field a rectangular field measures 20 meters by 30 meters. Rounded off, inamaanisha zote, rounded off to the nearest 10 meters. So tulifanya in the first lesson how to get absolute error when numbers are rounded off. Kumbuka tulisema, if you want to get absolute error, you'll say that rounded off value divided by 2. Don't forget that. So question, calculate the maximum and minimum perimeter of the rectangle. So that's the question. So it's always good ukikuwa na questions kama hizi, maybe si lazima, but if you can, unaweza chora that rectangle kama ujui rectangle nini, but it is also good to draw. Kama unaweza chora, kama uwezi, I think most of us know what a rectangle is, so just proceed. Now in this topic, when they talk about figures that have formulas and they're talking about the areas or perimeter or volume or all that, step number 1, always remember to write the formulas first. Unique to a man. So to work out this question, before I even talk about maximum and minimum, the first thing is I'll write the formula. Perimeter of a rectangle equals to 2 into length plus width. This is what should guide me. And ikishaandika hivyo, then I'll look for the maximum perimeter. Maximum perimeter will be given by, just like in the other question, the operation from this formula, unaona vizuri, the things that are involved, this is a constant. We are talking about the variables here involved. The sign in between them is actually addition. So in addition, like we said, make sure that you follow the rules of addition. So for maximum perimeter, since it's addition, we'll take the maximum length, maximum width. So it will be 2 into maximum length. length was 20, rounded off to the nearest 10. The absolute error is 5, plus or minus. So maximum itakuwa 25 plus maximum width itakuwa 35. So if you work out that operation, that should give you 120 meters. Next, minimum perimeter. If you want to get the minimum perimeter, it will appear from the formula 2 into minimum length. Minimum length should be 15 in this case, plus minimum width, which is 25. So if again, you work here out, you should multiply that, the answer should be 80 meters. I'm always writing the units because in maximum values, minimum operations like this, provided you're just adding things that are units, then the units should be involved in the question. So that's simple. In case mtu amesahau, mtu maybe anashangaa nimetoa wapi 25. Hivi, kama number ni 20 and it's rounded off to the nearest 10, you simply say 10 divided by 2. Then you get the absolute error, which is plus or minus 5. So from plus or minus 5 inamaanisha, the maximum of that would be 25. The minimum of that would be 15 because you say 20 minus 15. So uone hiyo. Mwingine anaweza kuwa anashangaa nimetoa wapi hizi ma 25s and the 15s. And remember that for perimeter tumesema add maximums for addition. Add minimums for add minimums to get the minimum value. Alafu add maximums to get the maximum value. Hi. One more example. Example 3. Example 3 is the top. The top of a table. The top of a table is a regular hexagon. Hexagon is 6-sided figure. Each side of the hexagon measures 60.0 centimeters. Find the limits of the perimeter of the top of the table. Okay, so nafanya hii question kwa sababu unajua pia ni vizuri on each part we explain something. The reason I'm doing this, I'm bringing in limits. Kumbuka what I said before. I told you that ukifanya question yenye kuna limits of something inamaanisha get the maximum of that thing, get the minimum of that thing. After getting the answers, then you write the answers in inequality form. So since this is a hexagon, inamaanisha it's 6-sided figure. 6-sided figure yani inakaa hivi 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Na tumeambiwa that each side of this is 60.0 centimeters. So then inamaanisha from this question, if I wanted to get the perimeter's distance around, so it's each value multiplied by 6. But kumbuka kuna maximum perimeter and minimum perimeter. So for maximum perimeter nitasema 6 into, kwa sababu ni 6 sides na add the maximum value of this. 60.0 has an absolute error of plus or minus 0.05. This 0 is still a value, so it involves the error. So inamaanisha the maximum will be 60.05. And if you work out that, you should be able to get 360.3 centimeters. Minimum perimeter. Minimum perimeter should be 6 into the minimum value of this. If you want to get the minimum, unasema 60.0 minus the absolute error, and that should give you an answer 59.95. Na hizo namba za zero kama hii watu sumbukana sana kupata the absolute error, so you should not mess on that. And this gives you the answer 359.7. 359.7 centimeters. So for this question, they talked about limits. If you leave your answer this way, haujamaliza, hautapata zero, but it's not correct. When they say limits, you have to write perimeter, write the maximum perimeter huku, minimum perimeter huku. So minimum is 359.7 centimeters, alafu maximum is 360.3 centimeters. Hivo. So if a question is limits, make sure that you leave your answer in limits. If it is just find the maximum, minimum, leave your answer as a maximum, minimum. So ningependa nifanye another operation, but itakuwa mingi sana for today. Maybe people might forget. So I'll try record the next one soon so that zifatane haraka. Kwa sababu I thought I could explain addition and multiplication maybe as per now, but maybe multiplication itakuwa faster. Anyway, try to go through that and keep watching. Ukiwatch polepole vizuri, by the time this topic will be done, to go very okay with it. Might be tricky kidogo, but if you do the right thing, you'll always get things right. Have a nice time.